More energy madness today, more news from here and around the world that shows just how badly this nation has mucked up its energy system, just how much worse it's going to get and how it's going to cost us all a bomb in the meantime. The Prime Minister and Premiers met in National Cabinet today to sign off on a rushed, economically reckless and expensive package to try to provide relief for consumers from skyrocketing electricity prices. More on that in just a moment. But first, think of what's going on here. It started with this promise made 100 times in the election campaign.
Reducing power prices by $275.
By 2025, $275 a year.
$275 a year.
We'll get power prices down by $275 a year.
And then after Labor won government, electricity prices went up by more than that within months. Interest rates kept going up too, of course, they're still going, and the cost of living keeps going up as well. But the new Prime Minister and Treasurer told us it would be unwise to provide cost of living relief.
Our responsibility to the Australian people is to manage the budget responsibly and to be upfront about what we can and can't afford to do. We weren't prepared to do something that might have made a nice splash on budget day, but would ultimately be counterproductive to tackling the inflation challenge. It would have been the easiest thing in the world to borrow more money and spray more cash around, but that wouldn't have been right or responsible. My job is always to prioritise what's right and responsible and affordable, and not just what's popular. It would have been easier and no doubt more popular to splash borrowed cash on an expansionary cost of living response. But in the long run, that would have delivered a deeply damaging outcome for Australians and for their economy.
And the easy option would have been for us to funnel these savings straight into a cash splash, a one-off giveaway to buy a headline. Cheap politics, but hugely expensive economics.
Yeah, they were going to be so responsible, forcing our electricity prices down with their renewables revolution and holding the purse strings tight so that they didn't fuel inflation or sink the budget further into deficit. But now all that's changed. Yesterday it was just another $10 billion to try to keep the lights on.
Capacity mechanism, which we will implement in partnership with the states and territories, will see the Commonwealth call auctions for bids for dispatchable renewable energy, which the Commonwealth will underwrite going forward. This is a sensible, carefully designed mechanism which will unleash investment in clean, dispatchable energy right across Australia.
Dispatchable renewable energy? Say what? Dispatchable renewable energy? That's the whole problem with renewable energy. It's intermittent. It's not dispatchable. It's often not there when you want it. When you have it, it's great. But when the wind isn't blowing or the sun isn't shining, it's about as good as, well, it's about as good as a politician's promise to lower your power bill by $275 a year. So the phrase dispatchable renewable energy has to be one of the great oxymorons of our time. It's about as logical as free lunch or a cold fire or a political promise. Just to give you an idea of the size of the challenge here, this presentation by Australian energy experts created a scenario where there were 500 wind farms in the best locations around the nation to see how much storage would be needed to ensure there were no blackouts. It found that if the gap was covered by big batteries like this $100 million project in South Australia, we would need 70,000 of them. 70,000 big batteries. That's $7 trillion worth of batteries. Good luck. Alternatively, according to John McArdle of Global Rome, you would get by with 25 pumped hydro projects like Snowy Hydro 2.0. Now, the first Snowy Hydro 2.0 is delayed, dogged by controversy and set to cost 5 times the original $2 billion estimate. Still, at $10 billion a pop, 25 Snowy Hydros would be a steal by comparison to the batteries, just $250 billion, and they'd last much longer than the batteries too. But where would you build them? And how long would it take? It's actually impossible, of course. That's the point. The renewables plus storage model does not work. It's never worked anywhere. So why does Blackout Bowen and Labor and the Greens and the Teals and most of the media pretend it can? The only thing that's dispatchable in Labor's renewable energy plan is the Minister Chris Bowen himself. He's dispatchable, and the sooner the better for our energy system. If you want a reality check on our energy shambles, look again to the UK and Europe, where they're further down the path of energy ruin. The UK this week signed an energy pact with the US. There are two main elements. The US will increase its gas exports to the UK. You know, fossil fuels, they need more of them. And the two countries have agreed to ramp up nuclear. The new focus on nuclear cooperation will promote civil nuclear as a safe and reliable part of the clean energy transition, a secure source of energy to ensure global supply chains are less dependent on unreliable sources. And the US and UK will work together to deepen collaboration on small modular reactors as well. Yeah, that's what the real world is doing, but Blackout Bowen pretends that nuclear is too expensive, while he continues to pour countless billions into an impossible renewables revolution. Don't forget he's also committed to a United Nations fund to send untold billions of our money to help other nations reduce their emissions. And late today, there was more spending, with the Prime Minister announcing the widely expected caps on gas prices and coal prices, and a yet-to-be-detailed plan to deliver rebates to households and small businesses for high electricity prices.
The Commonwealth will provide up to $1.5 billion to provide support for households and also small businesses. This will be paid through state governments by reducing people's bills.
Just another $1.5 billion for now, plus whatever the states might kick in, as the scheme doesn't start till March next year. Instead of cutting power bills, Labor is now providing compensation for power bill increases. Instead of making the electricity grid work more efficiently, the government is adding schemes and interventions and making it more complicated and more reliant on taxpayers' funds and more expensive overall. Where will it end? Well, eventually, reality will get a look in, but we might have to wait quite a while.